People above 30, what is something you regret doing or not doing when you were younger? Story 1. Teeth. Wish I'd brushed and flossed more regularly, gone to the dentist every 6 months, etc. This is my only regret. Going to the dentist for regular checkups would have done wonders to keep my teeth in better shape. It can get quite expensive if you ever get a crown or lose a tooth, and then need an implant. Oh, I made that mistake. Skipped regular checkups for 3 years, and when I went back for a checkup, I had 6 spots that needed filling. I never needed a filling before this, so I ended up getting a second opinion that confirmed I needed all that work done. One of the cavities ended up being so deep on a molar that I had to later get a root canal, get a crown on it, then an extraction because that tooth cracked, and then finally an implant and crown. Start to finish, it took me 6 months to complete the repair. After all that, I started using an electric toothbrush and religiously saw the dentist every 6 months. The dental hygienist wasn't happy with how I was keeping my teeth about 15 years ago, so she told me, "You'd better start taking care of your teeth, or you're going to start losing them." Oh, finally I got it, and I became the person who always brushed at night. Since then, I have flossed and brushed every night without fail. Wherever I am, I always floss and brush, and now when a dental hygienist looks at my teeth, they'll say, "Wow, your teeth look great." It's worth it. Flossers or Christmas trees to clean out the junk between the teeth. Hard brush for the teeth and soft brush towards the teeth inside out. For the gums. I didn't go to a dentist through most of my 20s. It had been about 10 years since the last time I had gone. Dude was ready for a crap show. And I still have never even had a cavity. The rest of my body is an absolute train wreck, so I guess I rolled 100 in tooth health and just got crap rolls the rest of the way. Breast cancer, double mastectomy, near daily migraines, and the occasional cluster headache. Oh, and seizures on occasion. But hey, I have great teeth. Story 2. Staying in shape. It is so much harder later in life to keep up. Lose weight and all the rest. I just want to temper this by saying that exercise and diet still have a significant effect as you age, so it's never too late to start or resume healthy habits. The results may not be quite as quick or impressive as they were in your 20s, but being active in your 30s sets you up well for your 40s, 50s, and beyond. As an example, sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, which typically accelerates after 50, is often a concern for people as they age. However, there's a body of evidence showing that it can be mitigated and even partially reversed with exercise and appropriate diet. I bought my mom hand weights, and she's in her 60s. She already walked and rode her bike regularly, but I stressed the importance of building and maintaining muscles at her age. She's been using them for about a year now and says she's never felt better. Gaining weight kind of sneaks up on you. At 20, you gain 4 pounds. Whatever, right? That's basically the same weight, and since you go up and down about 3 pounds a day, who even knows if you gained it? Then 4 more pounds. Whatever, you're 22 now. Still sexy, and nobody expects you to stay rail thin as you enter the workforce. You're way better than your older coworkers anyway. Keep gaining a very mild 4 pounds a year until you're 30, and you're 40 pounds heavier than you used to be. You're fat, and your lifestyle and habits are pretty ingrained. That's how it happens. Moms can have it tougher because they have a few kids, and each time is the kind of challenge a guy created for himself over 10 years. Story 3. Standing up for myself. I lived way too long trying to make others happy and letting them manipulate me. My family used this to their fullest advantage. I stopped it now, but wish I had the backbone 20 years ago. I see this now. I worked hard to help others because it's the kind of world I want to live in. A community of people who lend a hand when needed. I don't regret that I tried. I'm in my early 40s now, and am sickened and saddened at how many people consciously choose to use and manipulate others. This is why we can't have nice things. But I'm now starting a journey to live a new life of cutting off these kinds of people, now that I can identify them. I think it's one of the most difficult things I've done. Cutting off your parents because of the toxicity they bring is incredibly difficult. Of course, they don't see that. I think they see it as an easy choice you made just to punish them. Meanwhile, you're held together with a string just trying to get by. Families get away with so much crap because they can condition you as you grow up. Looking back, I was raised in a way that was not healthy. Now that I'm older, I've seen it and can't unsee it. I can't even think of my dad without wanting to break his teeth. He's just such a bad person. Just the way he behaves and the things he believes are incredible. He hates everyone and growing up alienated my entire extended family. For every aunt, uncle, or cousin I have, I know the negative crap he'd say about them all the time. Similar, I trusted my managers to speak up for me. They didn't. I should have done what the two men who got my promised promotions did. Go over my manager's head and directly to the decision maker. I encourage those who report to me now to go over my head and create a relationship with the decision makers. I fight for them, but someone seeing you're motivated helps so much. Skill will get you noticed, but relationships and speaking up will get you the promotion. Story 4. This is a little complicated, but I wish I had been able to come to terms with not caring what people think of me when I was younger. It did wonders for my confidence. It took a lot of time learning to accept who I am, generally speaking, and also learning to surround myself with people who were a more positive influence on me and genuinely cared about me. Wound up spending far less time with people I considered friends, but I learned were regularly bringing my mood down. Once I accepted who I was and allowed myself to just be me, the people who weren't for me, who were the ones making me feel bad about who I am, saw themselves out. I'd rather be surrounded by fewer people who I can be myself around than tons of people who only like my facade or mask. Same here, but it wasn't necessarily that those I considered friends brought my mood down. My sobering moment was when I was wondering why the hell I was up at 3 a.m. in the morning, making social media posts about crap that really doesn't matter, all for someone to like and respond to it? I figured that the ones whose opinions I truly valued would be the ones I talked to on a regular basis outside of social media. So yeah, there are some who I considered good friends that are not good friends anymore because we really didn't have much of a connection beyond mutual friends and some shared interests. It's not that I didn't like them any less than I ever did, I just realized they weren't who immediately came into my head when I wanted to hang out or tell about things I felt were important to me. Really wish I had learned this a lot earlier because it would have made high school and college a lot less stressful when you're not trying to please everyone and do everything with them just to appear cool. Story 5. My friends and I talked about doing a 2 to 3 week Europe trip back in our 20s. Oh, maybe next year. Eventually, jobs, bills, and families put all that to rest. I did this with my friends. It was awesome. I'd still recommend doing it. Find a way and be the organizer. Reverse engineer the whole trip by sending them airplane costs, Airbnb, and how much local groceries cost so you can estimate the food budget. Go on the city website and check transit costs. Even for a week, it's worth it. Piggybacking to emphasize something else here, the memories you make on trips like this will last for a lifetime, and the expenses, within reason, will be a distant memory 5 years later. My only real regret on a long, beautiful trip to the UK was not booking a hotel each Friday and Saturday of the week instead of staying exclusively at hostels. The privacy to decompress would have been lovely. You can have adventurous vacations where you get outside of your comfort zone, go to new and exciting places, and try things you never would have before, or you can go on vacations with kids. There is a rare, maybe 1% of parents who have the resources, emotional and financial, to take that first kind of vacation with their kids in tow. But safe to say it won't be you, the reader. If you want to see it before you settle down. Because after kids, hope they have a version of it at Epcot. Story 6. Take care of your health before it's too late. If you are young and having back issues or any other chronic or not problem, you have to take care of this before it spirals out of control. You may think you're tough and push through it now, or that it will go away, but these types of problems can slowly get worse and creep up on you. I am currently living with the consequences of this. I feel like I'm 90 and have at least 4 major health issues at the moment, and I don't even know where to start. If I had tackled my neck issues when I was younger, my life would be a lot better right now. Great advice. I'm nearing 30 and have had chronic back pain/neck pain for the last 3 to 4 years. I'm finally taking it seriously and getting proper treatment, physical therapy, and getting stronger. It was only getting worse, and I couldn't begin to imagine what it would be like in my 50s plus. So important. Can confirm, a problem with my pelvic bone that made sit-ups uncomfortable at 7 to 8 years old and escalated after 30. It's now impossible to lay on my back or have anyone touch my lower back without crying. Also, the older you get, the harder it is to get a doctor to look into your pain. I've heard everything from being too fat, being too thin, exercising too much, not exercising enough, epidural during birth, and aging used as excuses for my pain. This, and I'll add mental health as well as physical health. Learn those healthy coping mechanisms ASAP. Trauma, especially trauma related to childhood/relationships/neurodivergence, ADHD/AU, etc., come back and bite you in the arse in your 30s. By that point, everyone assumes you're a fully functioning adult and should be able to cope with it, only you never learn how because no one told you that you needed to. Then resources are hard to find and any help is fleeting if it is even offered. This is 35-year-old me telling you under 30 you, deal with your mental health now. I lived a sedentary lifestyle for most of my life aside from some occasional hiking trips. Most of my free time was spent inside eating junk food and playing games. As I was getting into my 30s, I noticed my hands would lock up if I held anything heavy for a minute or so, like I actually had to force my hand open. I started lifting weights and performing bodyweight exercises, and my hands stopped locking up after about 6 months of training. If I had not started training, I could easily see myself being diagnosed with carpal tunnel or arthritis by now. Story 7. Worked an awful dead-end job for way too long. Agreed. I spent 10 years at a job that was soul-crushing, not just for me, but for everyone who worked there. I left pre-pandemic and have been so much happier. Everyone I talk to that I used to work with also talks about the weight that lifted when they quit. Same here. It was a job that I had gone to grad school for, and I was hesitant to give it up after all that work, but I wasn't making enough money to live. Interviewed for a job that paid 3 times as much on my 30th birthday and accepted it the week after. It'll take another few years to pay off the debt incurred by working for poverty wages, and I'll never make up for the lost years of savings, but I'm so glad I didn't waste any more time stuck in that old job. I taught at an underprivileged school where over 80% of the kids had free or reduced lunch. Coached 2 different sports. Even as I saw many of my peers leave and go to bigger and better coaching/teaching jobs, I stayed. Got told by administrators that I was working against what they were trying to do for themselves as administrators, and I needed to look for another job. I'm now at a better school and still coaching, but man, some of the guys who left before me are high AD, principal and admins. And I'm still slugging it out in 8th grade history and 4-hour practices each night. It's not a dead-end job, but not the fast road to success and cash. Story 8. I regret doing what my parents expected of me instead of what I wanted to do. My parents wanted me to be a doctor. So I majored in chemistry for 2 years before I finally accepted that I hated it and changed majors to business. My parents were furious and didn't tell anyone or say anything encouraging until 1 year later, when the pandemic hit and I gotta stay all cozy in my PJs at home, working my 9-to-5 cushy office job. I regularly threw this one in their face. If I'd listened to my parents, I'd be a frontline healthcare worker right now. Really humbled them. I became a lawyer because it really was the only option presented to me. I hated every second of it. I had a breakdown in my 30s and quit. I started cleaning houses because I needed the money and eventually started my own cleaning company. I'm basically the family embarrassment, and when it comes to family and friends, I'm still a lawyer. Appearance is way more important to them than my well-being. The problem is that they seemingly don't know when to stop pushing their expectations. I'm 34 years old and my parents talk to me like I haven't been independent for over a decade. They even get upset if you choose not to listen to them. I can't even be around my parents anymore. My dad trash-talked his way out of my life because he wanted me back in my hometown for me to fulfill my duties that I did as a child. I moved to Kentucky, and all he ever had to say was about lazy southern workers and how crappy the people in my neighborhood are. Not for a second did he realize that he'd been trash-talking my deliberate choices. I didn't think I had any regrets until you said this. I got accepted into an Ivy League school and other top colleges. But I also got into USNA, which was my dad's alma mater. I was really tempted to go to USC or UPenn, but my dad took me out on a drive and told me he wouldn't be proud to be my father if I didn't serve the country. I went to USNA despite the fact that I had precisely zero desire to attend. It was miserable. Total assholes ruined my life. 9/11 happened, and the school became more of a misery factor, and my grades slumped to the point where I got put on a performance plan, at which point I told my review board that I wanted to leave. I ended up going to a state school and spent years clawing my way back to a place where I feel genuinely proud of my accomplishments. Sometimes I think about how much different my life would be in terms of success if I had gone to a school of my choice rather than letting one awful comment from my dad waste years of my young life. I was told by my parents, my teachers, and my school to go to uni right after school. I didn't know what I wanted to do back then. I just went because everyone else was doing it. I chose to do my best subject at school, even though I didn't care for it. When I got to uni, I struggled with the subject. I wasn't mature enough, so I isolated myself and eventually dropped out. Was depressed and stuck at home for a few years before going into retail for a few more years. Working there allowed me to grow up and understand the real world and more about myself. I went back to uni at 27 after growing up and did a subject I was actually into. I graduated with the best marks and I'm so happy about it. I just wish I could have taken a gap year and worked back when I was 18 and spent that time growing up and skipped the whole depression and feeling like a flop stage. Story 9. Not taking my education seriously. To add to this, I wish I had planned my education better. I was the first person in my immediate family to go to college, but had no idea what I was doing when I got there. I wish I had planned out my major in advance and done a better job of networking in order to get a better job when I graduated. I'm on the opposite spectrum. I went into college knowing what I wanted to do, writing, probably journalism. I dedicated a lot of time to it and learned a lot. I learned, most importantly, that it is a crappy field and I didn't want to do it. Switched to computer science when I found out that was fun. Networked a lot. Even when I was playing games like World of Warcraft, I was networking on other screens, chatting with people, learning stuff. I had to work 3 separate part-time jobs. Weekdays, I was a computer lab assistant, super early or super late, or both. On weekends, I was a cart pusher / bag boy at a grocery store, closer to my girlfriend, so I had a good excuse to go visit. And a couple of days a week, I was at a TA type of job for the CS lab. Part of that was to get money, part was experience. I used the career center, which 0 other people I talked to even knew existed, got an internship, practiced interviewing, made connections. Got a great job out of college. That's turned into an interesting career. I would say I'm not passionate about my work, except to say I am passionate because it is my work. I would not choose to do this if it wasn't for the money and perks. I would 100% be a writer of some kind instead. But I do feel like I missed part of the college experience. I'm shy by nature, have social anxiety, etc. But most people don't guess that because I'm also talkative. I didn't go to any parties, didn't make any lasting friendships, and didn't really experience things, even movie nights or shows. I guess I did play tennis, so that's something. My average day was up at 5:15 a.m. to be at work by 5:45 to open the labs by 6. Work from 6 until my first class, often 9 or 10, and classes until lunch. A short lunch break, then back to classes in the afternoon. Any breaks between classes, and I would be working on assignments or reading on campus. Dinner at 5 or 6, then to the CS labs for group projects until around 8 or 9. Then back to the public labs from 9 to 1 a.m. to close. Yes, I slept from 1:30 to 5:15 most days. And I was actually hospitalized for it eventually. Do not recommend it, especially since they assumed I was drug-seeking in retrospect at the time I was dumb and naive. My stomach muscles essentially just seized up and said nope and locked me into a sitting position permanently. Trying to stand was excruciating. Even the fetal position wasn't nice. They made me stay overnight for observation before they gave me anything, so I basically sat in the bed curled up in pain all night. And finally, they gave me some muscle relaxers, and eventually it sort of eased back to normal. It sucked. Story 10. I regret thinking that nice things were not for people like me. The number of experiences, travel, and career opportunities I turned down is crazy, all because I didn't think I was good enough to deserve them. Nice things are for you. This was a complete revelation when I was in my early 20s. Lived with an absolutely beautiful woman with looks and personality. Didn't end up with her, but she changed my perspective completely. My background and lack of popularity in high school didn't make any difference to who I was and what I could achieve. I didn't realize I was this person until recently. I have my dream job and still have imposter syndrome about it. I rejected my partner's offer to move in so many times because I thought things like that wouldn't happen to me, and have delayed travel for the same reason. 27 now and trying to turn it around. Some good words to live by when thinking about an opportunity you're not sure you're ready for: say yes, and then figure it out. It's not that simple, obviously, but many people just say no because they don't think they're ready or won't be able to handle it. Default to saying yes and figuring it out, and only say no when there's just no possible way to make it work. Story 11. I did my thesis on regret as a function of age using a survey with 1,400 participants. The overwhelming finding was that regret for things that you failed to do, omission regrets, sticks with you much more than regrets for things you did, commission regrets. Furthermore, when we are young, omission regrets are less salient and meaningful. As we age, regret for things we fail to do bother us more, while we tend to get over our commission regrets. This is not surprising. What was surprising was that people with a sense of spirituality find that having regret, regardless of the type, is a useful experience, and they benefit from revisiting or thinking about these things in several domains, making sense of life, fostering social connections, and guiding future decisions. I can vouch for that. I have a very deep faith, and I've always had a rough life. Early childhood abuse, SA in my teens, violent husband, poverty, a nasty divorce, single mother, a stressful job, family demands, and chaos. Now in my 60s, I have 4 major medical issues. I'm on oxygen and a cane, and I have chronic pain 24/7, but I wouldn't change one thing. Those challenges have shaped me to be strong, compassionate, intelligent, funny. You've got to have a sense of humor. And it has made my faith even stronger. I'm a very happy person with a wonderful son who treats me like a queen. I live by myself with 4 cockatiels and 3 budgies who love me and entertain me. And I love my friends at work and at church. I've had a lot of wonderful experiences along the way. I'm grateful and blessed. I would be curious about the effect of failure on things in life as a result of decision making. For a period of time, I was homeless living in my car, and at times I was traveling the world. The more I studied dopamine, the more I realized that for some of us, negative/positive life swings help us understand and appreciate the value of hard work and help us overcome failures. While I won't say it couldn't have been better, because it could, my life overall was pretty great considering all the failures I did overcome. Overcoming failures, I think, is the most important lesson one needs to learn. Creating coping mechanisms that don't rely on drugs or alcohol to overcome failure will, I think, ultimately lead to someone having fewer regrets as they get old. Story 12. I wish I hadn't treated life like it was a rehearsal. I didn't do drugs, drink dangerously, or do anything exciting enough to be worth the risk, but I lost friends and family by just being selfish. I shouldn't have been so impulsive or assumed there would always be second chances. Same. Currently taking a no-contact break with my long-term partner of 5 years. Absolutely sucks to think about the possibility of this break never ending. I have to work on myself regardless of it, if I get a second chance or not. Never get complacent and take your loved ones for granted. It'll be too late before you know it, and you'll be kicking yourself looking back on all the times you should have done better. As someone who was in a similar situation, you need to do a deep introspection on whether this is actually resolvable or if your partner is just dangling a carrot while waiting for the next thing. If you do get back together, you need to do couples counseling, and likely individual counseling if you haven't already started. And you need a third-party, unbiased mediator to call BS on both ends. We didn't keep up with it, and it ended up being disastrous, and years later we're only just now working through the trauma we inflicted on each other. Story 13. Quit drinking. Alcohol sucks, and it's really bad for you. Wasn't an alcoholic, just got really bad hangovers and anxiety after drinking. Haven't had a sip in 51 weeks. I'm in my 30s, in a place with a heavy drinking culture, and I feel like my friends who drank a bunch in their 20s, aka all of us, now fall into 3-ish categories. 1. People who have intentionally cut back for their health and well-being. 2. People who have slid into drinking less because childcare means they don't go out at night. 3. Alcoholics. And 3A. Alcoholics who are dead. So definitely good advice to take care of that while you're younger and more able to bounce back. Or never getting too far into it to begin with is a great idea. I love alcohol. It's fun and delicious. And when my job or life was really stressful, it was fun to get crunk with my friends and dance until sunrise in Tokyo. $10 all you can drink from 6 to 9, then dance until midnight. then go do karaoke with all you can drink and eat until 3, then go back and dance until the first train. The best way to spend my 20s. Then I moved back to North America where drinks were like $10 to $15. I turned into a seltzer with lime guy overnight, lol. Because what even was the point? I wanted to unwind and relax, but I'm not spending $50 to $100 to just unwind. It was the easiest switch of my life. 7 years on and I have maybe one drink on average a month. Usually with the bulk on holiday when I make mulled wine with my family. The thing is, I see people who haven't gotten the memo and they still drink, they still party, they still smoke, and they're aging like cheap leather. I still go out, but I'm home by 2 a.m. at the absolute latest. And even then, it now knocks me out for most of the next day. But it's crazy how badly you'll age with bad habits in your 30s. Story 14. Dealing with my trauma instead of running from it. I dealt with some serious childhood trauma by drinking heavily in my 20s and 30s. I don't drink anymore and had something recently happen to me and it all came out. It never goes away no matter how much you bury it. I'll never know why this simple little event triggered all that. Big yes, sometimes it takes a while to be ready. It took me about 5 years to even acknowledge that I went through trauma, but once you notice it, do what you can to face it. Therapy, I know that can be tricky depending on what healthcare is like where you live. Therapeutic outlets like art or poetry, and support groups. I thought I did a decent job in my late teens and early 20s, and I suppose I did. I kept myself alive, but I didn't do all the work. I got some relief from a short stint of therapy and it floated me for another 3 to 4 years, but as evidenced by accidentally discovering an acquaintance of mine went through the same stuff with the same person, I was not healed. So now here I am at 30, starting the next chapter a little later than needed. I have my first therapy appointment set up next month, but if you get the chance, don't put it off. It's hard and exhausting, but you'll be so glad when you're on the other side. Story 15. I had as much fun as I could when I was in my teens and 20s. Do I regret spending money I didn't have to do things I shouldn't have because it set me back financially for 10 years? No, yes, not really. Would I rather do those things in my 60s and 70s when I could afford it? No. So no, I don't regret it. Do the things if you can, while you can, because tomorrow may not come for you. That doesn't mean breaking the law, it means if you want to take a trip to see what the hell ever happened, just do. Because once you start adulting, you may have the money to do, but you sure as hell won't have the time. Do I regret breaking my body playing sports and other activities that I am now suffering through because I pushed my body to an extreme level? When I'm hurting a lot, yeah. When I am reminiscing about it, no, it was fun as hell. So while you're young, you do you. Go have fun, as long as the only person you're hurting is you. Now, when you get older and look back and think, maybe I shouldn't have done that or said that, all that means is that you're growing as a person. I hope that you have those moments before you're 30, but it's never too late to stop being a dick. Absolutely this. Money will come and go. Unfortunately, youth disappears quickly. Similarly, I spent my 20s traveling and figuring myself out. I have no regrets. I loved seeing the world. I was kind of a dick and definitely have moments I'm not proud of, but I grew from them, and now I feel like I have a strong understanding of who I am and what I value. I wouldn't give up those memories that made me who I am today for all the money in the world. There is a line in the East of Eden. I am myself sifting my memories. The way men pan the dirt under a baroom floor for bits of gold, dust that fall between the cracks. It's small mining, small mining. You're too young a man to be panning memories, Adam. You should be getting yourself some new ones so that the mining will be richer when you come to age. Story 16. Started smoking cigarettes. Did it for about 30 years, although I've quit now. Don't do it, kids. I was recently told during a medical test procedure for work that I have the lungs of a 71-year-old man. I'm 47. Don't do it, kids. You will hate yourself. If you already hate yourself, well, you'll hate yourself a lot more, especially when you start thinking about this, plus money math. No matter what your head is telling you, it does nothing for you. When I used to do stage acting, I had a smoker friend teach me how to blow smoke rings and just hold a cigarette the right way and look like a smoker. I remember there was a certain sensual quality to it, and I could see the attraction, especially if you were a kid trying to feel cool. Story 17. When I was 30, I was married. We were in the process of moving. The wife had gone on ahead and I would be following in a month after finishing up my job. Everything was packed and sent up ahead. I was sleeping on an air mattress and had a lawn chair in the living room. No TV, no computer. My only entertainment was library books. So a few days before I was scheduled to leave, I just got so bored of reading books that I decided to go out. I hit up a local bar and had a good time. I'd been talking to a couple of college girls, and one thing led to another, and they invited me back to their place for a threesome. And I thought to myself, there's no way the wife could ever find out. I'll be gone in 2 days, so there's no way that these girls would ever be able to track me down again. It's perfect. And then I turned them down because I'm married, and that means something to me. My marriage was worth more than a one-time fling. Anyway, long story short, 3 years later, I was divorced after finding out that my wife slept with 5 other men. I kind of regret my choice now. Story 18. Prioritize making new friends when you graduate from college. What about during college? I have some friends now, but not in a close circle. Maybe 1 and 2 are close. The people I really am close with are doing their own thing in other cities. Do you regret not making friends during college? How much harder does it get after that? I don't want to make this mistake, but I'm not very social. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you would like to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.